This week on Choice Hacking. Duolingo is one of the world's most successful learning-based businesses. In 2023, it made nearly $500 million in revenue, a 46% increase from the year prior, and it had 16.3 million daily active users. Maybe its success isn't surprising. There's lots of reasons to want to learn a new language. Maybe you're planning a trip abroad, you'd like to improve your job prospects, or you were inspired by a popular movie or TV show. But here's Duolingo's big challenge. It's easy to get excited about starting a learning journey, but it's much harder to stick with learning than most people think, especially when it's delivered in an online course or an app. A recent MIT study found that online courses only have a 4% retention rate, but Duolingo has been remarkably successful keeping people engaged. They boast a daily active user retention rate of about 55%. Why is that? Well, because they use psychology and behavioral science to keep us learning. I'm Jennifer Clinehens, and you're listening to Choice Hacking, a podcast about applying behavioral science and psychology to business, marketing, experience design, and more. Join me today as we unpack the psychology behind the Duolingo experience and how you can apply lessons from their business to improve your own. But before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, Choice Hacking Training. Did you know that Choice Hacking isn't just a podcast? We also do a lot of corporate training that can get your teams using the power of behavioral science, psychology, and AI to drive your bottom line. Choice Hacking can help your employees learn the nuts and bolts of applied behavioral science, become more persuasive presenters using psychology and predictive AI, and even polish their internal influence, persuasion, and leadership skills with the power of evidence-based approaches. Sound interesting? Well, just visit choicehacking.com/training to learn more. That's choicehacking.com/training. Now on to the show. Duolingo knows it needs to make learning a habit for users to stay engaged. Habits are actions performed without conscious thought, like grabbing your morning cup of coffee or going to the gym every day after work. There's no overthinking or self-negotiation. You just do it. And that's why turning an app into a habit is the holy grail for every digital business. And Duolingo has managed to do that for millions of users. To understand how, we first need to understand the mechanics of a habit. The habit loop describes the basic structure behind every habit. It was coined by MIT researchers in the 90s, and it goes a little something like this. The habit loop has 3 parts, and all 3 parts must be present to create a habit. First is the trigger, also called the cue. Second is the routine. And third is the reward or feedback. In this episode, we're going to break down how Duolingo builds on the habit loop to create an engaging, gamified experience. Let's start with how Duolingo uses psychology to create triggers. These are signals that it's time to perform a habit. For me, waking up every morning triggers a craving for a cup of coffee. Not because I want one, but it's just something I do at the same time every morning. Duolingo uses a few different triggers to get you to open the app. First, push notifications. Second, email reminders. And last, a bit of emotional manipulation. Let's start with push notifications. Push notifications are one of the most common ways apps trigger habits. They pop up on your phone, they interrupt whatever you're doing, and they remind you to log in and study French. When those notifications use psychological levers with principles like scarcity or loss aversion, they're especially powerful. But there's a big problem with push notifications. Users have to give apps permission to send them those notifications. While most other apps just ask nicely, Duolingo actually rewards users for allowing notifications in kind of a sneaky way. They tell you in the app that a rewards chest will unlock at some point between 6 p.m. and midnight. Duolingo then asks users if they want to be notified when the chest unlocks so they don't miss out. To be notified, you guessed it, they have to turn on push notifications. It's a win-win strategy. Users get a little reward, and Duolingo gets to send them triggers in the form of notifications to open the app. Duolingo knows that if users won't respond to a push notification, then their inbox is the next logical place to send a trigger. Their emails are simple, effective, and include things like actionable subject lines with concrete language that say things like, "Hi Jen, take 5 minutes to practice Chinese today." Concrete language is specific, descriptive, and actionable, and studies have shown that it can increase conversion between 2 and 10x. The other thing that Duolingo gets right in its emails is one clear, specific call to action, like start a lesson. They don't ask you to follow them on TikTok or refer the app to your friends and start a lesson. Nope. There is one bright, easy-to-notice button with a concrete call to action. Many of their emails also include personalized streak information to push users to start a lesson before they lose their streak, leveraging both personalization, or the cocktail party effect, and loss aversion, making users aware of what they have to lose if they don't click and start learning again right now. If push notifications and emails don't work, Duolingo has one more kind of sneaky trick up its sleeve: emotional motivation. Some might call it manipulation. Duolingo is famous for its owl mascot named Duo. He's an adorable cartoon that the brand uses to fire up users' emotions. For example, if you don't use the app for a while, you'll start to get emails with subject lines like, "You made Duo sad," or "Keep Duo happy." Making a cartoon owl happy or sad is, in my book, a little manipulative. In fact, in recent years, Duolingo does appear to have toned down the emotional manipulation after some user pushback in memes. But it is hard to ignore messages where Duo the owl is literally crying in your inbox. And while I don't recommend guilting your users into engaging with your business, clearly this strategy worked for Duolingo, and they're comfortable with any negative effect it might have on their brand. We've broken down the triggers that Duolingo uses, but what about the routine? The routine is the habit itself. In my morning coffee example, the routine is when I wash out my favorite mug, make some espresso, froth a bit of milk, and stir in some sugar. Duolingo's customer experience is full of psychological strategies that get people hooked on the routine of learning a language, like pre-commitment and social motivation. Let's start with pre-commitment. This is a motivational strategy that gets people to promise to do something in the future, and the more specific, the better. For example, pre-commitment wouldn't just be promising myself that I'll go vote, but getting even more specific to say things like, "I will vote on November 7th at the Cherokee County High School auditorium at 11 a.m. Research shows that we feel the need to stay consistent once we've made a commitment. We're even less likely to procrastinate. Duolingo asks users to make a specific pre-commitment to a learning goal before even taking their first lesson. Users are asked to commit to a specific daily time goal for their learning sessions, like 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day. If you want to include pre-commitment in your engagement strategy, follow Duolingo's example by creating specific and actionable goals. For example, don't say, "Do you want to exercise at all, more, or much more?" Try saying, "Do you want to exercise 3, 5, or 7 days a week?" Next is social motivation, also known as competition, which has been shown to increase effort and engagement. Duolingo uses competition in the form of a leaderboard. Once you're high enough on a particular board, you start graduating into higher and higher leagues. Competition using leaderboards is a proven way to keep users engaged, but it's not a great fit for every type of experience. For example, an app that tracks days of sobriety or days without a cigarette is probably not a great fit for a leaderboard because the stakes of falling down the leaderboard are just too high. The risk of failing in public could do more harm than good. Carefully consider whether including competition in your experience is the right thing for your users, their goals, and your brand. We've covered triggers and routine. So now let's look at the final element of the habit loop, rewards. Rewards are the payoff you get from performing your habit. For example, my morning coffee habit gives me a quick boost of caffeine, fat, and sugar that my body craves, for better or for worse. Duolingo includes a variety of rewards in its experience that make every correct question feel amazing, kicking up a little dopamine, making you feel good, and solidifying the habit. A few ways that the app rewards users are celebrations, XP, and achievements and badges. First, let's break down celebrations. Whenever users successfully complete a lesson, Duo the Owl and another random character do a little celebratory dance. It's a small thing, but celebrating little wins can make a massive difference in user engagement and retention. This strategy takes advantage of confirmation bias. It says that we're more receptive to information that conforms with our existing beliefs or behaviors. So when users complete a lesson and they see a cute character doing a dance, they not only feel pride for completing the lesson, they're also getting a bit of positive information that confirms that their actions, learning a language with Duolingo, are correct. Next, let's look at XP. Continuous rewards is a gamification tactic that gives users a little prize every time they complete an action. In Duolingo's case, they provide continuous rewards in the form of XP. That's experience points for the non-gamers among us. Although they might vary the amount rewarded, XP is given out every time a user completes a lesson. To keep things from becoming too predictable, Duolingo shares rewards that appear randomly, called variable rewards, in the form of XP boosts. This gives users a limited time to earn extra XP to keep them using the app longer. Last, Duolingo uses one of the most common gamification elements in mobile apps: digital badges. The ability to earn and display badges helps keep users engaged and hunting for that next achievement. Badges are a constant in gamified experiences, but do they work? The answer from research appears to be yes. An internal study from IBM found that 87% of users who earned a digital badge were way more engaged as a result of their digital reward, and 76% of IBM's managers said digital badges motivated employees. Duolingo's approach to user engagement using psychology and behavioral science has a chokehold on the business world, and for good reason given their growth. In fact, this episode of the podcast features just a few of the tactics that Duolingo uses to keep people engaged. If you want to read about at least 10 more, check out the full article, which this podcast is based on. I've left a link in the description. It seems like every other digital business is out there chasing what Duolingo has. And while they're an amazing case study to learn from, make sure you're taking into account your customer, your product, your market, and your goals. And don't copy-paste their approach into your own business. Instead, run some experiments, see what works for you, and leave the rest to Duo and his unholy TikTok account. Thanks for listening to the Choice Hacking Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it on social media. It takes me 20 plus hours to put together every episode, and it is a huge help when you share an episode with your LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, or even your TikTok followers. And don't forget, you can learn more about behavioral science and psychology applied to business when you subscribe to the free Choice Hacking Ideas newsletter. You'll join more than 8,000 brilliant UX, CX, and marketing folks from companies like Google, Coke, and Disney who get my newsletter. To sign up, just visit choicehackingIdeas.com. That's choicehackingIdeas.com. Until next time.
I hit record a drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for